I grew up with two girls who were like sisters to me. One was a grad student at Dartmouth, studious and reserved, barely coming home once a year. The other had been my designated sweetheart since birth. Our families had joked we were engaged since we were kids, and I always knew she would be my future wife. So, I was always by her side, watching over her meticulously, never imagining that my devotion had become a burden to her. Today, she finally snapped. During a family dinner, our parents brought up the old marriage pact. Sarah Anderson slammed her hands on the table and shot to her feet, pointing at me. "It's all your fault, always following me around. I can't talk you out of it. I can't yell you away. You just shamelessly cling to me and make everyone misunderstand. Stay away from me from now on. You're so damn annoying." Hearing her words, I froze, completely stunned. The piece of shrimp I was about to give her fell from my chopsticks and hit the floor. Her words were harsh, no different from publicly accusing me of being delusional. With all eyes on me, my face turned pale, and a lump formed in my throat, making it painful to even breathe. 18 years of being constantly together, I had given her all my affection, only to be called shamelessly clinging in return. In front of everyone, she had taken my pride and dignity and ground them into the dust. My parents' faces were ashen. They probably never imagined that the girl they had watched grow up would treat their son this way in public. Sarah's father, Mr. Anderson, was the first to react, scolding her. "Sarah, what is wrong with you?" Sarah frowned and shouted back, "What's wrong with me speaking my mind? To me, he's just the boy next door, a brother. I could never marry him. I don't like him at all. I want to date and marry someone I love. You have no right to arrange my life." After saying her piece, she threw down her chopsticks and started to leave. Mr. Anderson glanced at my parents, then at me standing there in humiliation, and his anger boiled over. He caught up to her in 2 strides and slapped her across the face. The sharp crack sent a shiver through my entire body. It was the first time I had ever seen him hit her. I instinctively rushed forward to help her up, but she shoved me away forcefully. I stumbled back a few steps as she glared at me, her eyes red, and spat through gritted teeth. "Are you satisfied now?" My eyes widened. Seeing her wipe away tears and turn to leave, I grabbed her arm. "What is that supposed to mean? You might as well make it clear." The look in her eyes was pure disgust. "You have the nerve to ask me to make it clear? If you weren't so shameless, following me everywhere, would they always be trying to push us together? I have never, ever liked you. Can you please stop being so delusional? Ethan, I'm begging you, just give me a break." I was stunned by her words. Finally, swallowing my humiliation, I spoke with grave sincerity. "Sarah, I'm sorry. I'll remember what you said. I, Ethan Carter, swear right here and now that from this moment on, I will never bother Sarah Anderson again." From that day on, I didn't say a single word to her. The next day at school, we were like strangers. I walked into the classroom first and Sarah followed. It used to be her in front and me behind, but now our roles were reversed. Our classmates always loved to tease us, saying Sarah and I were like lovebirds always together. Seeing us arrive one after the other, a few of them joked, "Here come the lovebirds." Usually I'd feel happy hearing that. But now, even though the words were the same, my feelings were completely different. I glanced over at Sarah instinctively. Her face was cold as she walked to her desk, sat down, and pulled out a workbook. Seeing her indifferent expression, my heart ached as if pricked by a needle. "Some things, once said, can't be taken back. Since you want to draw a line between us, I'll help you do it." I dropped my backpack at my seat, walked up to the front of the classroom, and for the first time, clarified our relationship to everyone. "Hey everyone, Sarah and I are just next-door neighbors. We walk to and from school together because our houses are close, which has caused some misunderstandings. Besides being neighbors, we're nothing more. Please don't speculate or joke about us anymore. Thanks." As I walked back to my seat, I saw the confused and surprised looks on my classmates' faces. When I passed Sarah's desk, I noticed her expression had grown even darker. No one really believed what I said. After all, we had been inseparable for over a decade. They all just assumed we were a couple having a fight and would be back to normal soon enough. Third period in the afternoon was gym class. As high school seniors, we were buried in books and practice tests every day, leaving us all drained and exhausted. Our homeroom teacher, afraid we'd all get depressed, made sure to herd us all out to the field during gym to get some exercise and de-stress. I was on the basketball court, and after about 20 minutes, a girl ran over, yelling frantically, "Ethan, Ethan!" Sarah fell while running in class. "She's bleeding a lot, you have to go see." Hearing she was hurt, my mind went blank and a surge of panic hit me. I took off running towards the track. Maybe after more than 10 years of trailing after her like a lost puppy, it had become a habit. The moment I heard anything about her, my first instinct was to rush to her side. A crowd had formed in the middle of the field. Someone shouted, "Make way! Ethan's here!" The students parted, creating a path for me. Sarah suddenly looked up, her gaze meeting mine from a distance. A flicker of some emotion crossed her clear eyes, and she looked incredibly vulnerable. I instinctively reached out a hand to comfort her, but then I snapped back to reality. I pressed my lips together and said, "You guys should help her to the nurse's office to get that checked out." With that, I turned and walked away without a moment's hesitation. My departure surprised everyone. The moment I left, they burst into a flurry of discussion, speculating wildly. I pretended not to hear any of it, never slowing my pace or looking back. For the next few weeks, we acted like regular classmates. Although I felt a bit lonely, I also felt a greater sense of freedom and relief. One evening after study hall, I was walking home alone when Sarah stepped out from around a corner, blocking my path. I didn't want any more drama, so I sidestepped to the right to go around her. To my surprise, she mirrored my movement, blocking me again. I was getting annoyed, but I tried to keep my expression calm. "Is there something you need?" Sarah replied nonchalantly, "No, can't I just wait for you? We used to walk home together every day." I managed a calm smile. "If there's nothing, I'm going to head home. See you." I tried to step around her again, but she quickly grabbed my left arm. "Ethan, what are you doing? Do you really have to be this cold?" I glanced at her. "Please let go. I need to get home." Sarah glared at me, her teeth clenched. "Ethan Carter, what is your problem? Are you planning to never speak to me again?" I said a few harsh words. "Are you really going to hold a grudge this long? When did you become so petty? If you want to cut ties so badly, why don't you just move? That would be more thorough, wouldn't it?" Hearing this, I nodded calmly. "My dad is actually looking at houses, but buying a new place is a big deal, so it might take some time. I'll remind him when I get home. Don't worry, even if we can't move right away, I won't bother you anymore." "You're ruthless." Sarah's face turned ugly. She stared at me for a long moment, realizing I wasn't just saying it to be spiteful, then angrily spat out the words and stormed off without looking back. After that, our families mostly went back to normal interactions, though without the same warmth as before. But between Sarah and me, a barrier remained. New Year's Day arrived. My mom had planned for us to celebrate at home, but Mrs. and Mr. Anderson repeatedly invited us over. My parents tried to decline but eventually had to agree. I had no intention of going, planning to stay home and study all day. But then Sarah came looking for me. "Ethan, I actually came to apologize. I was wrong that day. I shouldn't have said those things to you. Even though I don't like you in that way, I've never hated you. From now on, no matter what, I'll always treat you like a big brother." I turned and looked at her coolly. And, Ethan, let's start walking to school together again. Otherwise, my mom and your mom will just keep worrying about us." I clenched my jaw. Her apology felt like she was just reopening the wound. It would have been better if she'd said nothing at all. I had just started to forget, and now she was here to remind me all over again. After the SATs were over, the weight I'd carried on my shoulders for years suddenly vanished, and I slept for 2 straight days out of sheer relief. For days after the exams, Sarah came to my house. The moment I opened the door, she gave me a sweet smile. "Look who's finally awake. Our sleeping beauty has returned." Her voice was teasing. She came in and sat down naturally on the sofa next to me. It had been so long since we'd been anything but distant, and her sudden closeness felt strange. I instinctively shifted away from her. Sarah watched me with an intense gaze. "Ethan, how did you do on your exams?" Her voice held an excitement I couldn't quite place. I turned my head away and answered flatly, "I did okay." Then I started fiddling with a small trinket on the coffee table, creating more distance between us. Perhaps sensing my coldness, Sarah leaned in closer. "Ethan, tell me the truth. Are you still mad at me?" I looked up at her, confused. She studied my face for a moment, then gave a resigned smile. "Ethan, let's apply to the same college. We can keep going to school together, and then..." I cut her off immediately. "I haven't decided where I'm applying yet." Sarah pouted and the conversation died. She left looking a little disappointed, not having gotten the answer she wanted. That evening at dinner, Sarah showed up again, carrying 2 steaming plates of dumplings. "Mrs. Carter, fresh chive and egg dumplings. Still hot. My mom remembered they're Ethan's favorite, so you all should eat them while they're warm." My mom accepted the plates with a smile. After Sarah left, my mom brought up college applications again at the dinner table. "Ethan, you should really apply to the same school as Sarah. You two grew up together, you know each other so well, you can look out for one another." I didn't answer. I already had my own plans. The day we went back to school to check our exam scores, I saw Sarah in a corner with a guy. It was Leo Vance, the transfer student from the class next door. I'd seen them walking together a few times before. They were talking about applying to the same university because Leo wanted to be her knight and protect her forever. I gave them a brief glance and turned away. I had given 18 years of my life and feelings to Sarah. From now on, I wanted to be my own person. That's why I wouldn't be going to the same university as them. On the day we submitted our college choices, Sarah, having made her decision, excitedly ran into my room. "Ethan, have you picked your school yet?" I glanced at her and replied, "I have." She instantly lit up. "Is it Columbia? I heard they're accepting more students this year, and with your scores, you'll definitely get in." I didn't answer her question, instead asking one of my own. "Is Leo going to Columbia too?" I already knew the answer, but I asked anyway, holding on to a sliver of hope that didn't exist. Sarah paused, then smiled sweetly. "Yes, he is. He said he wants to go to Columbia with me." I lowered my gaze to hide the ache in my chest. Sarah's smile slowly faded as she stared at the fake one on my face. "Ethan, thank you. And, I'm sorry." She had said sorry so many times, but those empty words could never heal the scars on my heart. I gave a faint smile, and in the final minute before hitting confirm on my college decision, I changed the school from Columbia University to a prestigious school up north, Dartmouth. Not going to New York City was now my best option. The day the acceptance letters arrived, Sarah ran to my house with hers, demanding to see mine. "Ethan, let me see your letter. Here's mine, you can look too." I calmly handed my acceptance letter to her. She stared at the name of the school, her eyes widening in shock. Sarah was both stunned and surprised. I had always gone along with her wishes, and she probably never expected me to make such a major decision against them. She likely hadn't realized yet that I was no longer the same person. Sarah looked at me in disbelief. "Ethan, why?" There was a hint of hurt in her eyes. I smiled faintly. "My advisor said their fine arts program is a better fit for me." After saying that, I avoided her gaze, not wanting to see her reaction. Sarah looked upset and leaned in close. "Ethan Carter, look at me. Are you still upset about what I said that day? Have you been blaming me this whole time, never forgiving me? I was just talking nonsense. Can't you just forget it?" Her words felt like a punch to the gut. I couldn't forget. "You hurt me so deeply. How could I not care? How could I just forget? Losing the person I loved was tragic enough. I couldn't lose my dignity too." With that thought, I looked at her with a faint smile and said, "I've already forgotten how I felt that day." Sarah's expression soured. She pressed her lips together and left. I didn't understand. I had done what she wanted, so what was she still unhappy about? The night I got my acceptance letter, my mom cried and asked if I wanted to take a gap year and try for Columbia next year, or at least apply to the state university nearby so I'd be closer to home where they could look after me and not worry so much. I understood her concern, but what about my own pain? I needed to forget her and start over, and for that I needed the right environment. I didn't say anything, just looked at my mom pleadingly. My dad patted my mom's shoulder. "Dartmouth is a great school. Their fine arts program is even more renowned than Columbia's. You go there, study hard, maybe even go for a PhD. Your mom and I will be retiring in a few years. If you want to stay there after you graduate, we'll buy you a condo and move up to be with you. Stop crying. Isn't Chloe up there? She can look out for Ethan." Feeling my parents' love and support, the melancholy and reluctance in my heart began to fade. At the time, all I could think about was escaping Sarah. When I chose my school, I was so focused on my own needs that I completely forgot the Andersons had another daughter, one who was a grad student at the very university I had chosen. Maybe some things are just fated. After all that, I was still going to be living near an Anderson. Thankfully, it wasn't Sarah, but Chloe, who had always treated me like a cherished younger brother. Sarah left for college a day before I did. I wanted to see her off, but thinking about her words, I couldn't bring myself to step outside. I could only watch her secretly through the peephole. She stood in front of my door with her suitcase for a full 2 minutes, only leaving when Mr. Anderson called for her. From my side of the door, I watched her walk away from her home and step by step out of my world. We were finally going our separate ways, along with the love I could never properly confess. College life was demanding and busy. In my spare moments, I'd sometimes wonder what Sarah was doing, if she ever thought of me. I had never been apart from her for this long in my entire life, and it felt strange, leaving an empty space in my heart. To distract myself, I joined several clubs and did volunteer work whenever I could, keeping myself constantly busy. I was so exhausted every day that I'd fall asleep the moment my head hit the pillow. After we both settled in at school, we kept in touch a little. It was always Sarah who would iMessage me, asking how I was and telling me to send her some pictures. I tried to suppress my feelings, keeping my replies short and simple. As for the photos she wanted, I wasn't sure if she meant of me or the campus. I figured it was probably the latter, so I sent her a bunch of scenic shots of the university. Eventually, we stopped talking as much, sometimes going weeks without a word. She had a boy she liked by her side, and I didn't want to cause any misunderstandings or let my feelings interfere with her life. So no matter how much I missed her, I held back and never initiated a conversation. Right before winter break, she messaged me once to ask when I was heading home. I stared at the simple words on my phone for a long time before typing back, "Haven't decided yet. Our routes are different anyway, so don't worry about me." That afternoon, Sarah posted on Facebook with just 3 words, "Heading home together." Below the text were 2 pictures. One was a booking confirmation for 2 plane tickets, and the other was of 2 hands intertwined. My heart ached. I packed my suitcase and began the journey home, alone. The winter break at Dartmouth was long, so I could comfortably spend a lot of time at home. I got to eat my mom's cooking every day, which was something I dreamed about constantly at school. Sarah got back a few days before I did. After I arrived, she would occasionally come over to my house to chat. She was always cheerful, telling me funny stories from her university. I told her about the heavy snows in New Hampshire and the long, straight icicles that formed on the eaves. Most of the time, she listened quietly, a faint smile on her face. Sometimes she'd remind me to stay warm and not get sick, or say, "You need to take good care of yourself up there alone." I attributed everything she said and did to a sister's concern for her brother. I didn't dare to overthink it or let it get to me. My life was my own to live, and everything else was just noise. One day she came in while I had my feet up on the coffee table, devouring a slice of watermelon and getting juice everywhere. She rolled her eyes at me, went to the bathroom, and tossed me a damp towel. "Look at the way you eat," she said with disgust. "It's so unrefined. What girl would ever want to be with you?" My heart clenched painfully. "Is that why you treated my affection like trash? Why you insulted me so horribly? Sarah, please just stay away from me." When Christmas came, our 2 families gathered together as usual. Mr. Anderson had us over at their place early. The windows were decorated, small colored lights hung on the balcony, and the occasional sound of fireworks outside made everything feel even more festive. I had nothing to do and tried to go home to my own room several times, but Mrs. Anderson always stopped me, telling me to go play with Sarah in her room. I didn't go. Instead, I curled up in a corner of the sofa and scrolled through my phone by myself. What happened that day was like a sharp blade hanging over my head, something I couldn't forget. Sarah had apologized for it, but I couldn't get over the hurdle in my own heart. I don't know if that makes me petty, but I do know there's a long, bleeding scar on my soul. Suddenly, my phone was snatched from my hands, startling me. I was in the middle of watching an anime. Sarah leaned on the armrest next to me, holding my phone up to her face to see the screen. I reached for it. "Give it back." She quickly pulled her hand back, made a face at me, and then ran off. "You want your phone? Come get it from my room." I didn't want to go to her room, and I certainly didn't want to chase her. But then I remembered all the photos of her I still had saved on my phone. If she saw them, she'd get the wrong idea again. So I had to get up and go get it back. When I got there, she was already sitting at her desk. "Come in, we can watch together," she said with a happy smile, her eyes sparkling. I stood at the doorway. "I'm not coming in, just bring it out to me." "Afraid to come in? Hey, Ethan, when did you become so shy?" I looked at her and said flatly, "If you like the show, you can watch it. I'll just watch TV." I turned to leave. She called out, annoyed, "Can't you take a joke? Are you really as petty as he is? Here, take it. It's not like I want to look at it." She tossed the phone to me. I caught it quickly, catching a glimpse of the displeasure on her face out of the corner of my eye. The whole situation was giving me a headache. I suddenly had no idea how to act around her anymore. Once I had my phone back, I lost all interest in the show. Instead, I kept replaying what she had just said. Who was he? Sarah had always been particular, not really hanging out with guys. I was the exception, that he could only be Leo Vance. After figuring it out, I opened my photo gallery and started deleting the pictures of her I had collected over the years, one by one. Around 9 p.m., Chloe video called, and the family chatted with her animatedly for a while. Then Mrs. Anderson called out to me, "Ethan, come here. It's your sister Chloe on a video call. She wants to talk to you." I went over. On the screen, Chloe was watching me quietly, a hint of a smile in her eyes. Ethan, I've been traveling with Professor Summers for a research project, so I couldn't come meet you when you arrived. How are things at school? Are you doing okay?" I smiled and nodded. "I'm doing great." I hadn't seen her in over a year, and Chloe had gained a new layer of mature charm. Her sparkling eyes seemed to ripple with light. Sarah was beautiful, but Chloe was on another level. Chloe's pleasant, sophisticated voice was laced with concern. "Are you not used to the food? You've gotten so thin." I shook my head. "No, I actually really like the food in New England, especially the barbecue ribs from this one place." Maybe my enthusiastic description amused her, because her eyebrows relaxed and she broke into a wide, indulgent smile. "Okay, I'll be back on campus around March or April. I'll take you out for barbecue ribs then." Chloe's call brought a lot of joy to my Christmas Eve. Happy times are always fleeting, and soon it was time to go back to school. Thanks to the strong insistence of my mom and Mrs. Anderson, Sarah and I ended up booking flights for the same day. When we got to the airport, Leo Vance was waiting by the curb with a smile. The moment she was out of her parents' sight, Sarah became completely carefree. She ran happily and threw herself into his arms. For people in love, a day apart truly feels like years. I turned my head away and walked into the terminal by myself, carrying my own luggage. The coursework this semester was much heavier than the last. I pushed aside all distractions and threw myself completely into my studies. Gradually, I found my mind becoming calmer. I entered a competition organized by my department and, to my surprise, placed very high, causing a stir among my peers. My professor was very impressed with my work and asked me to create an expressive painting of a bird, based on my own interpretation. She said if it was good, she would feature it in an art exhibition and consider taking me on as her graduate student. This professor was highly respected in the art world. To be personally mentored by her was the ultimate dream for any art student. It took me over a month to finish the painting. When I nervously handed it to my professor, she was in the middle of a video conference. I was about to back out, but Professor Summers waved me in. She took my painting and showed it to the screen, asking the people on the other end to critique it. After the meeting, I learned they were her graduate students, and she was advising them online. My painting received high praise once again. The professor told me to exchange contact info with one of the female students on the call, saying our styles were distinct but complementary and that we should discuss our artistic insights. "Professor, I already have his number," a pleasant, familiar voice said through the speakers. Professor Summers looked puzzled. "You two know each other?" She held the phone out for me to see, and when I saw who it was, I smiled. It was Chloe, smiling at me from the other side of the screen. "He's my little brother. Be good, focus on your classes. I'll be back soon and I'll treat you to something delicious." Chloe's smile was gentle, and her tone was as affectionate as ever. Professor Summers began praising my talent to everyone she met, turning me into a rare prodigy in her stories. Almost overnight, I became a well-known figure in my department and even across the entire campus. I made it into the top 3 of the campus Who's Who list, and my photo was even posted on the main bulletin board, making me recognizable to most of the student body. After that, more and more people started asking me to paint for them, some offering payment, some not. I was incredibly busy all the time, and my mood gradually brightened. Chloe is 3 years older than me. In the past, I was the one doting on Sarah, while I was the one being cared for by Chloe. I didn't know much about her, but now that we were in contact more often, I discovered she was a very interesting person. Every so often, Chloe would discuss aspects of painting with me, sharing her experiences and insights. Sometimes she would send me pictures of her work for us to appreciate together. Whenever I hit a creative block, I would ask for her advice, and she always gave me the most insightful suggestions, which helped me immensely. Because of our shared passion, we got along incredibly well, and being with her was always easy and comfortable. Sometimes, when I had a spare moment, I'd scroll through Facebook to test my emotional resilience. Sarah, a complete change from before, was now posting about her happy life almost daily. It was either pictures of them having drinks together or holding hands on a date. The constant stream of lovey-dovey posts was enough to make me sick. I was looking forward to those barbecue ribs Chloe had promised me, but her return date kept getting pushed back. I ended up going with my roommate a couple of times instead. Soon it was summer break. Sarah didn't contact me and I didn't bother her. Once again, I packed my bags and headed home alone. I think I was finally getting used to life without her. My flight was overnight, so I arrived home around 6 a.m. I didn't even have time to talk to my parents before I took a quick shower and crashed into bed to catch up on sleep. By the time I woke up from a series of chaotic dreams, it was already noon. My mom was setting the table for lunch and waved me over when she saw I was awake. I looked at my mom and said, "Mom, I'm craving pasta salad for dinner tonight." She shook her head. "Maybe some other time. Your Aunt Anderson is taking us all out to dinner tonight." Dinner was at a new private kitchen that had just opened on the corner. I was running late, so when I entered the private room, there was only one empty seat left. Before I could even sit down, Sarah spoke up. Ethan, you're the last one. The whole family was waiting for you. I lifted my eyes to respond, but the sight in front of me felt like a sharp knife twisting in my gut, making it hard to breathe. I hadn't seen her in half a year, and she seemed more mature, her eyes filled with a deep tenderness. Sarah was leaning against Leo's arm with a shy smile, while he held her hand. They were so close, so intimate, that there wasn't an inch of space between them. My eyes stung, but my heart hurt more. She had brought him home to meet the family. In that instant, all the history between Sarah and me, the past that I had thought was ours alone, came to an abrupt end. It no longer had any meaning. For a moment, I was completely lost. Mrs. Anderson greeted me warmly. Ethan, sit down. What would you like to eat? I'll order for you. I numbly sat down in the only available seat, directly across from the love-struck couple. At that moment, I honestly wished I could gouge my eyes out. Sarah looked at Leo, her gaze soft and sweet. This is the boy next door I've told you about, Ethan Carter. Then, to me, Ethan, this is my boyfriend, Leo Vance. Of course, I recognized him. He was in our grade, the transfer student who was undeniably the most popular guy in school. His gentle and considerate nature was the complete opposite of my own easygoing personality. I guess that's the type of guy girls like. I just nodded slightly and said, Hey! Mr. and Mrs. Anderson knew about Leo's family situation and were clearly unhappy about it. Throughout the meal, they kept putting food on my plate while completely ignoring him. Leo looked awkward and uncomfortable, and Sarah kept whispering reassurances to him. My parents, feeling it was the Andersons' family matter, stayed quiet. As for me, I just focused on my food from the moment it was served. When I was mostly done, I put down my utensils and stepped out onto a small balcony for some fresh air. I couldn't stand watching their public display of affection. A moment later, I heard soft, hurried footsteps stop just outside the balcony. Not wanting to be seen, I quietly moved further into the shadows. Then I heard Mrs. Anderson's voice. Sarah, what is so great about that Leo boy that you're so devoted to him? You'll need a background check for a government job after college. Do you think his family will pass? In what way is he better than Ethan? Why do you have to choose him? I was startled. I wanted to leave, since this was the Andersons' private business and I was an outsider. Unfortunately, the balcony was a dead end, so I was trapped. Sarah was clearly head over heels for Leo, arguing with her mother in a fierce, hushed tone. Leo stood off to the side, watching everything unfold helplessly. He had a smile on his face, but it was tinged with a strange sort of humility. For a second, I actually felt a bit of pity for him. What had he really done wrong? His parents' issues had nothing to do with him. He just met a girl he liked. As for the mess between Sarah and me, that had nothing to do with them either. In fact, neither Sarah nor Leo were at fault. They were just trying to live the lives they wanted. I couldn't help but laugh at myself. Why could I find excuses for everyone else, but I couldn't seem to grant myself the same grace? Outside, Sarah was losing control of her emotions, her voice getting louder. Mom, can't you just think about me for once? The person I love is Leo. No matter how great Ethan is, he's just a neighbor, a brother at most. I don't love him. Not now, not ever. I couldn't listen anymore. 19 years of my life, dismissed so cruelly once again. Mrs. Anderson's face went pale with anger, and she raised her hand to strike. I stepped off the balcony and caught her arm. Mrs. Anderson's expression changed instantly. The guilt in her eyes was like an ocean threatening to drown me. Sarah turned to look at me, her gaze icy. I didn't know where that coldness came from, or why it was directed at me. I gave a self-deprecating smile and patted her hand. Mrs. Anderson, I don't have feelings for Sarah, and she doesn't have them for me. We're never going to be together. Besides, I'm already seeing someone, and we're very happy. After saying it, I instinctively glanced up at the sky. At this point, it was the only excuse I had left to protect my dignity. The others in the private room must have wondered where we were, because they all came out to find us and were now standing at the doorway. They had heard every word of the lie I just told. Everyone was staring at me, their faces a mixture of shock and disbelief. That night, I lay in bed, unable to sleep for a long time, the pain in my chest spreading. Near dawn, Sarah sent me an iMessage. Do you really have a girlfriend? Who is she? I stared at the screen without blinking for what felt like an eternity. Then I put my phone on silent, tossed it to the foot of the bed, and didn't reply. The next morning, with dark circles under my eyes, I called up a few high school friends to go hiking. After what happened yesterday, I really didn't want to see Sarah, but our houses were so close that the only way to avoid her was to get out. Just as I finished getting ready and opened my door, Sarah was right there, putting on her shoes with Leo's arm linked through hers. I gave a brief hello, not planning to say more. But then Sarah said, "Let's go." I called a car to wait downstairs. I was taken aback. "You're coming too?" Sarah looked at me sideways, a teasing glint in her eye. "What do you think? We'd let you go have fun all by yourself." A chill went through me. Why did they have to tag along on a simple hike? Couldn't they just leave me in peace? But I was the one who organized it, so I couldn't just back out. We met up with a few of our friends at the base of the mountain, all guys I was close with. It was the first time we'd all gotten together since summer break started. The friendship between guys is simple and pure. We were all laughing and shouting, arms slung over each other's shoulders, just happy to be together. They all knew about the situation with Sarah and me. They used to joke that we were the perfect couple. In their eyes, I was supposed to be with her. But now, seeing her holding another guy's hand right in front of me, they were confused. They kept shooting me looks, their curiosity burning. All I could do was force a wry smile. "Sarah, you should probably introduce your boyfriend to everyone." My high school friend Kevin, who never minced words, yelled out, "Sarah, since when did you have a boyfriend?" These guys knew everything about my feelings for Sarah. They were there when she publicly humiliated me, and they had even given her a piece of their mind for days afterward. Kevin was fiercely loyal and was probably trying to stick up for me in his own way. I gave a helpless, bitter smile. He really knew how to bring up a sore subject. Sarah was visibly annoyed. Kevin continued, "Aren't you too?" But before he could finish, our other friend, Liam, clamped a hand over his mouth. "Shut up and let's just hike." Hiking was tough work. By the time we were halfway up, everyone was exhausted and resting in the shade. My friends all gathered around me, looking like they wanted to say something but were afraid of hurting my feelings. It was both funny and heartwarming. I was glad they were there today. Otherwise, Sarah would have been torturing me. I looked at my friends seriously. "I'm only going to say this once, and then no one asks again. That whole childhood engagement thing was just a joke between our parents. She's always seen me as a brother, and I misunderstood. Leo is the one she loves." Hearing this, Kevin looked at me and asked, "But what about you, Ethan? Don't tell us your feelings for her weren't real." I shook my head wearily. "You can't force something that isn't there. If you can't stand seeing me single, feel free to set me up with any of your cousins." Liam then spoke up. "This must be really tough for you." I turned my head to look at a small daisy blooming in the distance and, after a long pause, replied, "It'll pass." Everyone sighed, lamenting how things change. Then their spirits lifted, and they started enthusiastically planning to cast a wide net and find me a girlfriend 100 times better than Sarah. I couldn't argue with them, so I just let them talk. After a long climb, we finally reached the summit. The guys were clamoring to get ice cream from the only shop up there. I immediately spotted Sarah and Leo, who had arrived before us. They were sitting on a bench under a tree, feeding each other raspberries from a container. I didn't want to torture myself, so I turned and walked in the opposite direction. Kevin followed me, muttering under his breath, "Sarah is heartless and blind. She's going to regret this one day. That Leo guy looks shady, and with your naive personality, you're no match for him." Kevin was filled with righteous indignation. After he finished his rant, I told him that Sarah and I were ancient history and to just drop it. He gritted his teeth and called me useless, completely frustrated with my attitude. Just then, Liam called, saying they had found a peach tree growing out of a cliff face, full of fruit, and wanted us to come see it. A peach tree on a cliff was a rare sight, so Kevin and I hurried over to check it out. On the sunny eastern slope, there it was, a huge peach tree growing diagonally out of the rock face. A branch was hanging close, and it looked like I could reach it if I stretched. Feeling playful, I climbed onto the railing, ignoring my friend's warnings, and reached for the branch. I don't know if it was bad luck or if the railing was just old and couldn't support my weight. I felt a sudden lurch, and then I was falling headfirst. Maybe it wasn't my time to die, because in that life or death moment, I managed to grab a vine growing out of a crack in the rock, stopping my fall and leaving me dangling in midair. Kevin and the others were shouting something from above, but my ears were ringing, and I couldn't make out a word. Since it was a state park, the mountain rescue team arrived quickly. When they finally pulled me back up, Sarah rushed over to me. "Ethan, are you okay? Are you hurt?" My arms and legs were scraped up, and the delayed shock of what had just happened overwhelmed me, making it impossible to answer her. Leo crouched down between us, intercepting the arm Sarah was reaching out to me. He soothed her gently. "Sarah, don't worry. Ethan will be fine." I had just escaped a life-threatening situation. The rescue team carried me down the mountain where an ambulance was already waiting. A few of my friends rode with me in the back as it sped towards the hospital. From the moment I was rescued until I was loaded into the ambulance, Leo carefully held Sarah's hand, following behind us. The only ones by my side were my old friends. In that moment, my heart turned completely cold. The ambulance stopped at the hospital entrance, and I saw my parents running towards me like mad, their tear-filled eyes making my own heart ache. I had gone out to get away from Sarah, and when I got hurt, she had acted like she barely saw me. I was in the hospital for 4 days with my parents by my side the entire time. Mr. and Mrs. Anderson also came every day, bringing fruit and meals, going to a lot of trouble. I felt awkward, but I understood what they were doing. They were trying to make up for things with their actions. Sarah knew I was hurt, but she never came to visit. It would be a lie to say I wasn't disappointed. On the 3rd day, I woke up from a nap to the sound of a hushed argument outside my door. The voices were familiar, Sarah and Leo. Through the door, I couldn't hear clearly, but it sounded like Sarah wanted to visit me and Leo wouldn't let her. They were having a disagreement right outside my room. I was being discharged the next day, so whether she visited or not didn't really matter anymore. Listening to them, I drifted back to sleep. On the day of my discharge, both families showed up in full force, crowding the hospital room. Mr. and Mrs. Anderson helped pack my things. My mom helped me get dressed, and my dad knelt on the floor to tie my shoes. A warmth spread through my chest. I may have lost love, but I still had this deep, sweet family affection. I was actually very rich. Sarah stood at a distance with a sullen-looking Leo by her side. She tried to come over and help a few times, but he stopped her, so she just stood there with him. Occasionally, Sarah would glance my way, her eyes showing a hint of concern. Most of the time, she was whispering to Leo, who kept shooting resentful looks in my direction. I figured Mrs. Anderson must have insisted that Sarah come to pick me up. Leo probably didn't want to, but didn't dare refuse, so he was taking it out on Sarah. The doctor said my external injuries were fine, but I needed to rest for a few more days. So once I got home, my mom absolutely refused to let me leave the house. I was stuck at home for over a week, and I felt like my legs were going to atrophy if I didn't move soon. I was in the middle of a game when Sarah's call came in. I paused, frowning, debating whether to answer. But then my finger slipped and I accidentally answered the call. Sarah's voice came through clearly. "Ethan, open the door." I frowned. "What is it?" "I came to see you, I've been worried," she replied. "I tried to visit a few times, but your mom wouldn't let me in. I saw her just leave, so hurry up and let me in. My wounds hurt, I can't get up," I lied, even though I was right by the door. Her expression was determined. "Take your time. I'll wait here until you open it." It felt wrong to just leave her waiting, so I decided to let her in. I walked over slowly and opened the door, instantly regretting it. I thought she was alone, but Leo was standing right next to her with his arm around her shoulder. My head spun, and I cursed myself for my clumsy fingers. Even though I was kicking myself, they were already here, and I couldn't just shut the door in their faces. "Please come in," I said, making a point to use the word please. Sarah gave me a quick glance, then squeezed past me, holding Leo's hand, and sat down on the sofa as if she owned the place. Leo sat down right next to her, the two of them stuck together like glue. I silently screamed in my head, "I get it, you're in love, but do you have to rub it in my face every second?" On the outside, however, I politely went to the kitchen to cut up some fruit for them. "Ethan, about your accident the other day, I found out too late to help you." "I'm sorry," she said. I shook my head with a smile. "It wasn't your fault, you don't need to apologize. It's fine." Hearing that, Sarah smiled. I knew it. The Ethan I know is the most generous guy and would never stay mad at me. It was Leo's first time at my house, and he looked around curiously. "Ethan, your house is really nice." I replied politely, "My mom did it all. She's an interior designer, pretty well known in her field. I probably inherited my artistic talent from her." I brought out the fruit platter, set it on the coffee table, and handed a piece to Leo with a small fork before taking one for myself. Sarah just sat there, staring at me calmly. I had no idea what she was thinking, and it made the fruit in my mouth taste bland. I asked her, confused, "What are you looking at? Is something wrong?" Sarah rolled her eyes at me. "Where's my fruit? Is this how you treat your little sister?" I was speechless. "You don't have hands? Can't you get it yourself? Are you waiting for me to feed you like I used to? You even know where we keep our bank books, so stop acting like a guest." I said it without thinking, just making casual conversation. But Leo's expression changed instantly. He looked angry, resentful, and most of all, jealous. "Ethan, is your family rich? You even tell people where your bank books are? Aren't you afraid something will happen?" I shrugged nonchalantly. It was just an expression. My dad's a senior doctor and my mom's a designer, so they do okay. I was just stating facts, not exaggerating at all. Leo's face darkened even more. He squeezed Sarah's hand, his voice still gentle. Actually, it's fine not to have money. I've heard that wealthy families are always unhappy. It's either siblings fighting over inheritance or the parents' marriage falling apart. They'll probably get divorced sooner or later. I frowned instantly. Wasn't he basically cursing my family? Even Sarah seemed to think he'd gone too far and squeezed his hand. Leo, don't say things like that. Ethan's parents have a great relationship. Leo pulled Sarah into his arms and looked at me defiantly. That's not what I meant. I wanted to grab a broom and sweep them out of my house. Who did he think he was, coming here and acting all high and mighty? His words had a clear, nasty implication. Even I, who could be oblivious, understood it. There was no way Sarah didn't. She was just pretending not to for Leo's sake. Leo continued, Ethan, don't get the wrong idea. Sarah was just worried about you, so I came with her. That's all. I shook my head. You're overthinking it. Thanks for coming to see me, but you should go now. I'm tired and need to rest. I had coldly asked them to leave. Sarah's face hardened, and she stared at me, clearly angry that I was kicking her out. Ethan Carter, we came here with good intentions. What is your problem? If you really look down on Leo that much, then fine, we'll just stay away from you from now on. The first part was for Leo's benefit. The second was aimed at me. I replied coldly, Are you deaf? Didn't you hear what he said about my parents? You can say whatever you want about me. I don't care, but you don't talk about my parents. I don't want to fight, so just get out. And don't bother coming back. Sarah paused, her eyes filled with disbelief. Leo jumped in again. Sarah, that's not what I meant at all. He misunderstood me. You have to believe me. I was thoroughly disgusted. I never knew a guy could be so pathetic. Sarah glared at me. Ethan, what Leo said about your parents was thoughtless, but he never means any harm. But are you completely blameless? You know what happened to his family, yet you flaunted how good your life is right in front of him. Weren't you just trying to provoke him? Ethan, how did you become this kind of person? I was so angry I had to laugh. She might as well have called me a monster. Was this really the Sarah I had known for 19 years? I suppressed my frustration and said, Sarah, I'm done talking to you too. I'm tired. Now please get out of my house. Thank you. Hearing that, Sarah angrily dragged Leo out of the house. Before leaving, Leo glanced back at me, a look of triumph so obvious in his eyes it was almost comical. She favored him so he could get away with anything. I didn't see Sarah for the next few days and peacefully enjoyed the rest of my summer break. After a series of worried reminders from my parents, I set off for school once again. For some reason, Sarah insisted on leaving the same day as me. I didn't care. If we had to travel together, so be it. It was just a short trip from home to the airport. When we got to the airport, I got a video call from Chloe. I stepped aside to answer it without a second thought. Chloe was truly the whole package, brilliant and beautiful. The one thing I didn't get was her habit of video calling instead of just calling. When I asked her why, she said the ringtone for video calls was louder and harder to miss. After we said hello, Chloe smiled at me. The Institute is co-hosting a competition with several other top universities, and the judges are all famous artists. Ethan, do you want to enter? If you do, would you want to be on a team with me? Besides art, Chloe and I didn't talk much, but her accomplishments in painting were remarkable. Her delicate and elegant style was a perfect complement to my own. I had learned so much from her. She was both a mentor and a friend to me. The chance to compete on a team with her was something I couldn't pass up. Before we hung up, Chloe mentioned she was already back on campus and would pick me up from the airport. I felt a little happy about that. After the call, I saw Sarah standing by the curb with a pile of luggage, waiting for me. Leo had his arm around her shoulder, a gentle smile on his face. I couldn't be bothered with them, so I just grabbed my bags and boarded the plane. The plane landed in the evening. I turned on my phone and was immediately flooded with iMessages, all from Sarah. Have you landed? Ethan, you have a lot of luggage. Is anyone picking you up? Ethan, stay away from other girls. You're so sincere. I'm afraid you'll get hurt. I glanced at them, deleted them one by one, and replied with 2 words. Landed. Fine. She replied almost instantly, sending several long voice messages in quick succession. I deleted them without listening and put my phone back in my bag. Chloe was waiting for me in front of a blue car, looking elegant and graceful. When she saw me, her eyes lit up, and she jogged over, ruffling my hair with both hands. Long time no see. Ethan, you've gotten taller. You're towering over me now. I scratched my head, looking down at her. Chloe, you've gotten even more beautiful. Chloe laughed happily. Why are you so thin? Haven't you been eating properly? I couldn't find the right words to answer her. After all, I had been in the hospital over the summer, and with my low spirits, my appetite hadn't been great, so I had lost some weight. I smiled and touched my cheek. Chloe, it's been 2 years, you still remember what I used to look like? I've been running lately, trying to lose weight. Chloe gave me a sideways glance. You've lost so much weight you look pale. I don't care if you're dieting or what, but starting today, I'm going to fatten you back up to your old self. Back at the dorm, my room was covered in a layer of dust after being empty all break. My roommates weren't arriving until the next day, so I rolled up my sleeves and started cleaning. By the time I had everything settled, it was almost 7 p.m., and my back and legs were aching. I was about to lie down for a bit when Chloe sent me 2 documents, followed by a video call. She said the documents were for the competition and wanted me to see if I had any fresh ideas. I was really tired, and my voice was weak. Can I look at them later? I just finished cleaning my room and I need a break. She raised an eyebrow. You can rest after dinner. The fattening up plan starts tonight. I'll meet you downstairs. To be honest, I was too exhausted to move, but I was also starving, so I agreed. Chloe then added, "Oh, by the way, do you mind if my friends join us?" I shook my head. I don't mind. The more, the merrier. At 7:30, I arrived at the restaurant. As soon as I walked in, Chloe stood up from a table by the window. She said something to her friends, then walked over to me with a smile. I was just about to come get you. Seeing Chloe's stunning smile, I was momentarily speechless. She smirked. Like what you see? I nodded instinctively. Yes, you're the most beautiful. I guess I never realized how much I appreciate beauty until today. My dumbstruck expression made Chloe laugh out loud. She then led me over and introduced me to her friends. One of the girls' eyes lit up. Wow, Dartmouth has such a handsome underclassman? How did I not know? Chloe, you're so stingy for not introducing us sooner. Chloe, I don't want to be your friend anymore. Can I be your sister-in-law instead? Chloe, peeling a shrimp, replied, Don't be ridiculous. If you scare him away, you're responsible for bringing him back. As she said this, she placed the peeled shrimp on my plate. I was taken aback. Chloe, she looked at me with her clear eyes and gave a cute little blink, and whatever I was about to say, I swallowed along with the shrimp. Seeing me eat them one by one, Chloe finally broke into a happy smile. She had always been so gentle and protective of me, ever since we were kids. She knew what I liked and disliked, and always gave me my favorite foods. Her friends, despite their teasing, were very easy to get along with. The dinner was filled with laughter, and the relaxed atmosphere helped ease my nerves. Whenever I was with Chloe, I always felt comfortable and at ease. I really enjoyed the meal. When we left, it was raining outside. September in New Hampshire was already getting cool, and you needed a jacket in the mornings and evenings. I had been sweating from cleaning earlier, so I had come out in just a light shirt. It was 9:30 p.m. by the time we finished dinner. With the rain, the temperature outside had dropped significantly. The moment I stepped out of the restaurant, the autumn chill hit me. I instinctively wrapped my arms around myself and shivered. A moment later, a warm jacket was draped over my shoulders, and a faint scent of perfume filled the air. When I realized what was happening, I tried to give it back, but Chloe, anticipating my move, gently pressed down on my shoulders. Keep it on. It's not the first time. Getting sick will affect the competition. That was a powerful argument. I had no choice but to give in to her successful threat. For the next while, outside of classes, I was completely immersed in my art. Chloe, under the pretext of making it easier for us to collaborate, set aside a dedicated space for me in the Institute studio, which I could use anytime. Thanks to Chloe, I became the first freshman at Dartmouth with free access to the Graduate Art Institute, much to the envy of all the guys who admired her. And Chloe truly made feeding me a daily mission. When it was time to eat, no matter where I was or what I was doing, she would show up and take me to get food. Often, her friends would join us, and over time, I got to know them all quite well. Because of Chloe, they all called me their little brother. With Chloe around, I felt like a kid again, happily enjoying her attentive care. But it seemed fate couldn't stand to see me comfortable for too long. One day, I got a video call from Sarah. I had just gotten out of the shower and was sitting at my desk drying my hair when the call came through. Seeing her blinking icon, a wave of mixed emotions washed over me. It was the first video call she had made to me since I started college. I had no idea what she wanted and was tempted to ignore it, but after I declined it once, she immediately called back. I reluctantly answered, and her face appeared clearly on my screen. She was smiling brightly, her eyes full of cheer. "Ethan, what are you up to?" I replied flatly. "Do you need something?" Her lips curved into a playful smile. "Can't I call you just because?" I gave a dry laugh and didn't respond. That kind of flirty banter wasn't for us. Even when I was completely infatuated with her, we never joked like that. It was certainly impossible now. Sarah spoke again. I need to ask you for a favor. What is it? My brow twitched. I had a bad feeling about this. She continued, Leo's department is organizing an exchange program with Dartmouth. He's heading up there the day after tomorrow. I'm worried he won't be able to handle it all on his own. I was speechless. So Leo was coming here, and she wanted me to look after him? Did he not have hands or feet? Honestly, I didn't want to agree. Leo might look like a gentle scholar, but I always felt he was cunning. Besides, I was swamped with the competition, working myself to the bone every day. If it weren't for Chloe, I probably wouldn't even be eating properly. Seeing my hesitation, Sarah pressed, Please, Ethan, I'm begging you. She had an expectant smile on her face, and Leo even popped into the frame to wave. Hey Ethan, don't worry, I won't cause you any trouble. I looked at his beaming face on the screen and frowned. How long is the exchange? Hearing my question, Sarah's eyes lit up. A month at most. I continued, Let's get this straight. I'm really busy right now, so I can only do my best. Tell him he can call me if he needs something, but otherwise, he shouldn't bother me. Seeing that I had finally agreed, Sarah's eyes crinkled into a smile. Thank you, Ethan. The next morning, I had breakfast with Chloe. She ordered all my favorite things, but the thought of Leo's impending arrival annoyed me so much that I lost my appetite. I could only manage a few bites. Chloe sat across from me and asked with concern, What's wrong? You're barely eating. I rested my chin in my hand. Leo is coming, and I can't stand him. A flicker of confusion crossed Chloe's beautiful eyes. Who's Leo? What does his visit have to do with you? I was a bit shocked. Did Chloe not know about Sarah and Leo? Did that mean she also didn't know about the mess between Sarah and me? No wonder she had never brought it up since we'd reconnected. After a moment's thought, I said, He's your sister's boyfriend. He's going to be your family one day. You didn't know. Chloe picked up a napkin, dabbed her lips, and set it down, an unreadable light in her eyes. Don't joke like that. You and Sarah have been promised to each other since you were kids. She could never have another boyfriend. I looked at Chloe's innocent face and suddenly didn't know where to begin. Seemed she really had no idea. The notion that Ethan and Sarah will be together forever was deeply ingrained in everyone who knew us. It was just like in senior year when I stood up in front of the class and said we were just neighbors, and nobody believed me. I looked at Chloe and said, Chloe, I'm not lying. There was never anything between Sarah and me. Leo was in our grade and they got together in our senior year. They're both at Columbia now, and Sarah really likes him. Chloe put down her chopsticks and stared at me in disbelief, as if trying to determine if I was telling the truth, as if what I was saying was some kind of fairy tale. The story was too painful and I really didn't want to talk about it. Chloe, can we not talk about this? Chloe just smiled gently. Of course, as long as you're happy. Let's go, class is about to start. Just remember, Ethan, no matter what happens, I'll always be here for you. I was truly touched. She was always so perceptive of my emotional shifts. Chloe, why are you so good to me? She paused, a flicker of some unreadable emotion in her eyes that she quickly suppressed. Then she smiled brightly. Our Ethan is so smart and handsome. Of course he deserves to be treated well. After breakfast, Chloe walked me to my classroom door and waited until I was seated before she left. Seeing me being personally escorted by the goddess of the Art Institute, several guys I knew crowded around, eager to know what my relationship with her was. When they found out I was her little brother, they all started acting like I was their future brother-in-law, asking if they were her type and if they had a chance of winning her heart. With the gravity of a responsible little brother, I sized them up. One guy's eyes were so small I couldn't tell if they were open or closed. Another had a middle part that was hopelessly out of style. A third was wearing overalls and clutching a basketball like his life depended on it. After my inspection, I publicly announced that none of them were qualified. They shuffled back to their seats with their broken hearts. One of them even laid his head on his desk and didn't get up for the entire class. Soon, it was the end of the day. Despite my reluctance, I went to the airport to pick him up on time. Leo saw me and smiled. Ethan, you actually came to get me. You really do anything Sarah asks, don't you? That's great because I have a lot of luggage. Can you help me with some of it? Leo was as annoying as ever. If I weren't a man of my word, I would have just left him there. I shot him a look. Did you not eat? You can't carry a few bags yourself. Then I turned and started walking away. Leo watched me get into the car with a blank expression, gritted his teeth in frustration, and ended up loading the luggage into the trunk himself. I couldn't help but wonder it was only a 1-month exchange program. Did he really need 3 giant suitcases? Once in the car, Leo started trying to pick a fight. Ethan, you've been studying here for over a year and you still don't have your own car? You have to take a taxi? I looked at him, exasperated. If you don't like it, get out. No one forced you to get in. At that, Leo put on a wronged expression. Ethan, you promised Sarah you'd take care of me. Believe it or not, I'll call and tell her. I held up my phone, almost shoving it in his face. Is Sarah your mommy? Do you have to tell her everything? Go ahead, call her right now. If your battery's dead, you can borrow mine. Leo lost face, his expression shifting between pale and flushed with anger, as if he wanted to kill me with a glare. I just hummed happily all the way, ignoring him. I enjoyed seeing him so annoyed but completely powerless to do anything about it. When we arrived at the campus gate, the 2 cars following us also stopped. They were the other exchange students with Leo. I dropped Leo off at his dorm and was about to leave when he called me back. Ethan Carter, I'm hungry. You should treat us to hot pot. It's me and my classmates, 7 of us in total. We don't know the area, so you can show us around. I was utterly speechless. The guy had no shame. I gave him a cold look. I'm broke. Goodbye. And with that, I turned and left. Seeing this, one of Leo's classmates asked, Leo, didn't you say someone would take care of everything for us here? How come he won't even treat us to hot pot? Is the guy your girlfriend found for you broke or something? He doesn't seem to like you very much. Or were you just bragging, and he doesn't actually care about you at all? Leo, who was vain and obsessed with his image, flushed with anger. His gentle demeanor from when he was with Sarah vanished, replaced by pure fury. Ethan Carter, if you don't treat us, I'm telling Sarah. I laughed at that. What are you, in 3rd grade? Still running to tattle? Did Sarah give you a gold star? Tell whoever you want. A few of the onlookers snickered at my words, laughing openly at Leo's expense. So much for their great friendship. Furious, Leo actually took out his phone and made the call. Sarah answered quickly. Leo put it on speaker so we could all hear. His voice was as gentle as ever. Sarah, I've arrived at the school. Sarah's voice came through. What's wrong? Are you okay? Do you have a cold? Your voice sounds a little hoarse. Leo shook his head. It's nothing, just that my classmates want to get hot pot. But Ethan, he trailed off, looking at me with a troubled expression. I stepped forward and snatched the phone from him. Your boyfriend wants me to treat his entire group of friends to hot pot. I don't have the money, I can't afford it. That's it. You two can continue your chat. Leo's jaw dropped, his face flushed with embarrassment. He probably didn't expect me to be so blunt. Sarah was silent on the other end, and the onlookers waited eagerly for the drama to unfold. Leo, unable to stand the humiliation, called out softly, Sarah. Finally, Sarah sent me $500. I'll pay. Just take them out to eat. Leo cares about his reputation. Don't let him be embarrassed. I didn't want to reply, but it felt wrong not to, so I typed back 2 words, no time. I then sent the money back, told her to transfer it to Leo herself, and sent her the location of a hot pot restaurant. Then, I dusted off my hands and walked away. Sarah called me several times that day, but I ignored them all. That night, as I was about to fall asleep, she sent me a text. Leo can be a bit shy. Please be patient with him. Her sending that message in the middle of the night wasn't an explanation. It was another reminder for me not to upset Leo. I didn't reply, just dismissed it and went on with my quiet life. I don't know what got into Leo, or if I had actually gotten to him, but he didn't bother me for the next few days, which was a pleasant surprise. I finally finished the draft for the competition, and it turned out even better than I had expected. I was very pleased with it. I was just about to take it to show Chloe when she called. Chloe, I was just about to call you. The draft is done. Do you want to take a look? Chloe laughed. Ethan, it's like we're on the same wavelength. I smacked my lips. Was Chloe flirting with me? She continued, Are you interested in a commission? A really big one. A friend of mine's grandparents are celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary at the end of the year. She wants to create a painted album illustrating the decades of their life together as a gift. The standards are high and the deadline is tight, so she's offering a lot of money. I immediately asked, How much? Chloe smiled. $15,000. I was shocked. Her friend was very generous. But could I, an unknown undergraduate student, really meet such high standards? I wasn't very confident. Chloe quickly encouraged me. You have to believe in yourself. I know you can do an amazing job. She really had a lot of faith in me. I wondered, with such a great offer, why didn't Chloe take it herself? Chloe went on, If you don't say anything, I'll take that as a yes. Focus on the competition first and then you can work on this. The deadline is after New Year's, so there's time. Right before she hung up, she added, Weren't you going to show me your draft? So on that crisp autumn evening, I took my draft to the institute to find Chloe. She was waiting for me in the first floor studio. I was wearing sneakers which were comfortable for walking and, more importantly, silent. The rose wall on the side of the institute was as beautiful as ever. I strolled along, feeling relaxed. Halfway there, I heard a faint, discordant sound from the side. The voices were strangely familiar. I'm not one to gossip, but the familiarity of the voices made me curious. I followed the sound, creeping closer. In the middle of the rose wall, there was a small, recessed floral corridor that led to an abandoned shed used for storage by the agriculture department. Two people were hidden at the end of the corridor, locked in a passionate kiss. In the dim, dappled light, I finally saw who it was and broke out in a cold sweat. It was actually Leo. I clamped my hand over my mouth, terrified of making a sound, and quickly hurried inside the institute. I couldn't figure out what Leo's relationship was with that girl or when they had gotten together. If they had just met, then Leo was certainly not picky. But the way they held each other seemed natural, like a desperate reunion of two people who had been apart for a long time. It looked like they had known each other for a while. It seemed Leo's exchange program at Dartmouth had a hidden agenda. Did Sarah know? My heart felt heavy. I thought about how much Sarah loved him, how she had fought with her parents to be with him, how she had sworn she would marry no one else. If Sarah, who trusted him so completely, had seen this instead of me, she would have lost her mind. Leo was too greedy, too timing Sarah. People's hearts are truly unpredictable. What are you doing, sneaking around like that? Chloe's voice suddenly came from behind me. I was so startled that I clamped my hand over her mouth and pushed her back inside the building. Chloe didn't know what was happening, but her eyes darted around, taking everything in. I didn't let go until we were inside the studio. Her face was flushed, and a fire seemed to be dancing in her usually calm eyes. I then realized how intimate our actions had just been. I turned my head away, quickly walked further into the studio, and carefully placed my draft on the table. I started explaining the concept of the painting and the effect I was trying to achieve to the other graduate students there. Chloe listened intently, her beautiful, glass-like eyes lighting up. Wow, Ethan, you're a genius. How did you come up with such a fantastic concept? I grinned and scratched my head. Chloe looked up at me, her eyes full of approval. This handsome young man had always been so talented. By the time we finished discussing my draft, it was almost 11 p.m. Chloe offered to walk me out, and we took the path by the rose wall again. As we passed the small corridor, I pretended to casually look around for the secret lovers. They were long gone. Ethan, why are you acting so shifty tonight? Are you hiding something from me? I shook my head. Chloe, have you seen Leo around these past few days? Chloe waved her hand dismissively. Why would I see him? I don't have time to entertain him. Oh, I said, but he's your future brother-in-law, isn't he? Should I bring him over to introduce you? Chloe shook her head with a smile. I only need to worry about my own future husband. I'm not interested in anyone else's. I was confused. Chloe, where is this future husband of yours? Do I know him? Chloe just hummed and smiled. You know him very well. That piqued my interest. Chloe, who is it? It's not one of my classmates, is it? But Chloe just kept smiling without saying a word. All the way back, I tried everything to get her to tell me his name, but she remained steadfast, only saying, "You'll find out eventually." Fine, finding out later was okay too. At least I could have Chloe to myself for a little while longer. Back in my room, I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. The scene I had witnessed earlier had me on edge. I couldn't decide whether to pretend I saw nothing and let Sarah live in her romantic fantasy, or to tell her the truth so she could deal with her cheating boyfriend. I thought about it for a long time without reaching a conclusion and eventually fell asleep. When I woke up the next morning, I still hadn't made up my mind. The whole thing left me distracted for the next 2 days. I was so out of it that I didn't even notice Chloe standing in front of me for a long time. Ethan, what are you thinking about so intensely? I looked up, startled. Chloe was watching me with a raised eyebrow and a smile playing on her lips. Suddenly, an idea struck me. Seeing the glint in my eyes, Chloe instinctively took a step back and crossed her arms defensively. What are you planning? I leaned in conspiratorially and whispered, Chloe, do you know any private investigators? Could you recommend one? Chloe grabbed my shirt, holding me in place in front of her. She studied my eyes for a moment to make sure I wasn't joking before asking, who do you want to investigate? I thought for a second. A few exchange students from Columbia came to campus last week. There's one guy who looks familiar, and I want to find out who he is. Chloe narrowed her eyes. Is it really that simple? I was at a loss for words and could only ask, what else would it be? She adopted a firm stance. Then I won't help you. Tell me the truth. What are you really up to? I don't get involved in shady business. I weighed my options and finally gave in, telling her the truth. I want to investigate Leo. I think he's up to something. Chloe stared at me for a moment before saying, Ethan, why are you so concerned with Sarah's affairs? I replied, shouldn't I be? Chloe, this is about your sister's future. Chloe looked at me sternly. Tell me the truth. What's really going on? Her intensity was intimidating, so I told her everything I had seen that night. After I finished, Chloe's usually warm smile vanished, her face turning cold as ice. So, you're trying to catch Leo doing something wrong, so he and Sarah will break up? Quickly shook my head. Chloe, that's not it at all. Even if they broke up right now, I wouldn't get involved with her again. I swear. Chloe studied me for a moment, and seeing that I was telling the truth, her expression softened. Then why are you getting so involved? Haven't you been hurt enough? I shook my head. Chloe, we grew up together. Even if we can't be a couple, I don't want to see her get deceived. You're her sister. Are you really okay with your sister being cheated on? Hearing this, Chloe looked at me seriously. I can help you, but you have to promise me that you'll never get this invested in Sarah's problems again. I nodded and held up a finger. Last time. Chloe's expression finally relaxed. Good boy, Ethan. After that, she took me out for some spicy noodles before we headed back. I waited anxiously, hoping to hear something within a week. To my surprise, Chloe was incredibly efficient. By the next evening, she messaged me to say she had the results. Soon, Chloe and I were sitting in the corner of a noodle shop, like spies making a clandestine exchange. She placed a file folder on the table in front of me and whispered, "Take a look. It's like a soap opera." I couldn't help but ask, "Have you already read it?" Chloe nodded, her stunningly beautiful face completely composed, showing no sign of anger that her own sister was being cheated on. I took the folder and began to read. It turned out the girl's name was Isabella Reed. She and Leo had known each other since childhood, both from prominent families in Boston, a perfect match in society's eyes. They grew up together, fell in love, and had long planned to go to the same university and get married after graduation. Unfortunately, Leo's father got into trouble and was arrested, and the Vance family was ostracized from Boston's high society. The Reed family immediately turned on them, forbidding Isabella from seeing Leo. Isabella, however, was genuinely in love with him and refused to give him up, even defying her family. Her parents, left with no choice, used their influence to make it impossible for Leo and his mother to live in Boston. The young couple was forcefully torn apart. After that, they lost all contact. They thought their story was over, but then, a university exchange program brought the star-crossed lovers back together. After just a few words, they were in each other's arms again. The two thin pages only detailed the story of Isabella and Leo, without a single mention of Sarah. But every word screamed the fact that Sarah was being cheated on. I finished reading quickly, feeling a strange mix of emotions. To be honest, a small part of me felt a sense of schadenfreude. But after that initial feeling passed, I was still at a loss. I had no idea what to do with this information. Chloe, do you think we should tell Sarah? Chloe frowned at me. Why are you agonizing over this? Don't you have paintings to work on? I rested my chin in my hand. She's your sister, after all. It's one thing if you didn't know, but to stand by and do nothing now seems a bit cruel, doesn't it? Chloe snorted and, after a moment of thought, said, "She's blind, treating trash like treasure. She deserves it." Seeing I was about to argue, Chloe cut me off. "No buts. Leo will slip up sooner or later. Let Sarah find out on her own. She's so infatuated with him right now that she won't even listen to our parents. Why would she believe you or me? We'd be trying to help her, only to be accused of having ulterior motives, which would just ruin our relationship with her." She had a point, but something still felt off. Given how distant Sarah and I had been these past few years, she would never believe me. She'd probably think I was just trying to cause trouble between her and Leo. So, for the time being, I gave up on the naive idea of telling her. But for the sake of our shared childhood, I felt I had to give her some kind of hint. That night, I lay in bed for a long time, carefully crafting a message to send her, suggesting she should video call Leo more often. Sarah was surprised that I had reached out and sent a flurry of texts back, all just casual greetings. I replied a couple of times, then got annoyed, turned off my phone, and went to sleep. The next day, my mom called, and I ended up telling her about Leo. She was silent for a long time after I finished, then told me to just focus on myself and not get involved in other people's business. My mom said that Sarah would never believe me and that I'd just end up being accused of having bad intentions. Sometimes, good intentions can lead to bad outcomes. Chloe and my mom felt the same way, so I let go of the burden and threw myself completely into my work for the competition. After studying my concept, Chloe decided we should go with my idea. We spent nearly a week refining it, finalized our creative direction, and planned to start painting the next day. I've been painting for a long time and have been in countless competitions, but this was the first time I'd participated in such a prestigious event, and as part of a team. I was excited and rubbing my hands together, determined to place well. I rummaged through all my supplies, only to find I was missing a few specific colors of paint that I needed to buy immediately. The campus store was already closed for the day. There was an art supply superstore on the street behind the university that had everything. After dinner, with nothing else to do, my roommate, Finn, and I headed over there. We hadn't gone far when I saw Leo and a girl standing in front of a small motel, wrapped in an embrace, oblivious to the strange looks they were getting from passersby. I sighed. It was just a few more steps. Couldn't they wait until they were inside to kiss? Did they have to put on a show for everyone on the street? Finn stroked his chin like he was watching a play. Isn't that Isabella Reed from the business school? I hear her family's loaded. A lot of guys are after her. These two are bold. I saw them messing around in a bathroom the other day, and now I catch them getting a room. To be young and full of energy. Finn was a true New Englander, blunt and straightforward, with no patience for that kind of behavior. We went into the art supply store together. My mind was in turmoil, and when I went to pay, I had a pile of things but had completely forgotten the paint. Finn had to remind me and I rushed back to get it. After we got back to the dorm, I frantically sent Chloe an iMessage. Chloe, I just saw them going into a motel. Should we go catch them? She replied almost instantly, the fine arts program isn't for you. You should transfer to the police academy. Chloe's reminder made me realize something. If Leo wasn't afraid of getting caught two-timing, why should I, a bystander, be hiding? The next day, Finn and I went to the campus dining hall for lunch, and as soon as we walked in, we saw Leo and Isabella eating together. Ever since Chloe got back, she had been dragging me out to eat with her every day, so I rarely came to the dining hall. But today she had to go off campus for something and wouldn't be back until evening, which is why I was there with my roommate. Leo had sharp eyes. The moment he saw me, he immediately put some distance between himself and Isabella and waved at me as if nothing was wrong. I couldn't be bothered and just treated him like he was invisible. But Leo, seemingly looking for trouble, came over. Ethan, Sarah specifically asked you to look after me. Is this how you do it? You disappear for days and don't even call. Poor Sarah still thinks of you as a friend, but it turns out you're just a two-faced hypocrite. I glanced at him. Talking about being two-faced? Some people put on a show of being so devoted and faithful, but behind the scenes. I shrugged, leaving the sentence unfinished. At that, Leo slammed down his chopsticks and yelled at me. What's that supposed to mean? Say it clearly. It was lunchtime and the dining hall was crowded. Everyone turned to look at the commotion. I said coldly, it means exactly what it sounds like. Don't you understand? I was about to turn and leave, but I took a step back, stood in front of him, and added one more jab. By the way, you know the saying, right? The only way to keep a secret is not to do it in the first place. Don't get too cocky. Maybe it was guilt, but Leo's face went pale. He stared at me with panicked eyes. I didn't do anything. Stop making baseless accusations. I sneered. I didn't say you did anything. Why are you reacting so strongly? One last piece of advice. Stay away from me and don't start trouble. With that, I turned and walked away. A few days later, Sarah called to tell me that, for some special reason, Leo's exchange program was ending a week early. I could hear the happiness in her voice. To be honest, I was happy too. Out of sight, out of mind. I found myself unconsciously comparing Sarah and Chloe. When I was in trouble, Sarah either didn't know or just blamed me. But Chloe, whether intentionally or by chance, was always on my side, helping me solve my problems. Besides my parents, Chloe was probably the person who cared about me the most. I had completely monopolized all of her free time. Sometimes, when she was too busy and we didn't see each other for a couple of days, I would feel a sense of unease, like something was missing. Chloe seemed to sense this, because no matter how busy she was, she always found time to call me. After seeing Leo off at the airport, I sent Sarah a picture to let her know he was on his way back, safe and sound. She sent a polite thank you, and I could hear the joy in her voice. I just hoped she'd still be able to smile when she found out the truth. In the blink of an eye, it was Thanksgiving break. Most students packed their bags and headed home, while others went on trips in small groups. I had already told my parents I wasn't coming home and had planned a trip with my roommates to see the fall foliage in Vermont. My bags were already packed. But then Chloe suddenly told me the competition deadline had been moved up and we had to finish everything by the 4th. To prove it, she even had Professor Summers back her up. So, I was dragged back to the Institute studio by Chloe to miserably finish the final touches. My wonderful trip was cancelled, and I couldn't muster any enthusiasm for anything. As Chloe put it, I spent the next few days pouting with a long face, without a single smile. With most of the faculty and students gone for the break, the campus was already empty. Chloe spent her days either making sure I ate or reminding me to focus on my painting. I agreed on the surface, but inwardly I was sighing. My Thanksgiving break was gone, just like that. On the night of the 3rd, I worked until 9 p.m. and was so exhausted I couldn't go on, telling her I'd finish it tomorrow. Chloe refused to let me leave and made me stay to finish the last little bit. After another 2 hours of work, I finally made it back to my dorm. After 3 days of working around the clock, I fell asleep the moment my head hit the pillow. I dreamed that my roommate, Finn, was sitting in a restaurant, gleefully showing me pictures from his Vermont trip. I was so mad I wanted to jump into the dream and punch him. I thought that with the break and nothing to do, I could finally sleep in. But just as dawn was breaking, my phone started ringing like crazy. Thinking it was my mom, I groggily answered, "Mom!" There was a moment of silence on the other end, followed by a light laugh so familiar it made my ears tingle. I was instantly awake. I glanced at the screen. Chloe was smiling like a mischievous pixie. I muttered under my breath, "It's the break. The work is done. Why are you bothering me so early in the morning?" Chloe's smile widened, her eyes sparkling. "Don't go back to sleep. I'm taking you out." I sighed. "I just want to sleep right now." Chloe patiently described how beautiful the scenery was where she wanted to go, how artists were desperate to go there for inspiration. She said if I went, I might never want to come back. Her sweet voice was incredibly persuasive. Chloe wasn't just a master painter, she was a master of brainwashing too. By the end, I felt like it would be the biggest regret of my life if I didn't go. And so, I was successfully won over by Chloe's silver tongue. When I stepped out of the dorm with my backpack, Chloe was waiting for me quietly under a cherry blossom tree. She had a gentle, lingering smile on her face, and her eyes held a soft, starlit tenderness. The morning sun filtered through the blossoms and fell on her, making her look like a figure from a painting come to life. She was so beautiful it made my heart race. By the time I snapped out of it, I was already in the car. Chloe handed me a bag. "It was too early to take you out for breakfast, so I bought something on the way. It'll have to do." I opened it and saw it was shrimp dumplings and oatmeal from my favorite place. That shop was quite a distance from Dartmouth, and since it was barely dawn, she must have woken up incredibly early. I stole a glance at Chloe beside me. Her face was truly beautiful. I often found it hard to look away. The drive was filled with easy conversation and laughter. I thought she would tell me our destination so we could plan out our trip and have a great time over the next 4 days. But Chloe was being mysterious. No matter how I asked, she wouldn't tell me where we were going, only that I would know when we got there. She promised I would love it. We drove over a mountain and across several bridges before finally arriving at our destination, a nature preserve in the rolling hills of the Adirondacks. There were vast stretches of pristine forest, a rich variety of plants, green mountains, clear water, and blue skies. Just like when we were kids, Chloe held my hand as we walked along the mountain trails. She told me about folk artists I'd never heard of, shared her unique interpretations of art, and reminisced about the paths she used to lead me down when we were young. We were like visitors in a painting. I looked at Chloe and asked, "Chloe, this place is so beautiful. How did you find it?" She smiled faintly. "There's something even more beautiful up ahead. Want to go see?" When the car stopped in front of a small village, I was once again left speechless. "Chloe, where are we? This is more beautiful than any painting." I stared at the scene before me, my hands itching to create. Chloe smiled. "Feel like painting? Let's eat first. We can paint the sunset later." She expertly found a local bed and breakfast, and the owner came out to greet us warmly at the sound of the car. For dinner, we had a typical rustic meal, and it was surprisingly delicious. I ate so much I could barely walk. Chloe laughed at me as she took my hand and led me on a walk through the village to help me digest. That evening, when Chloe opened the trunk of her car, I was stunned by how prepared she was. She had brought a complete set of painting supplies. As the brilliant sunset colored the sky, she set everything up, sat me down in front of an easel, and placed a brush in my hand. "I'll paint with you," she said. I sat there, completely focused, and painted for 4 solid hours. The sun set, the moon rose, and the lights in the corners of the inn's courtyard were turned on for us. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't fully capture the breathtaking beauty of the place. My style of painting is all about detail, so after 4 hours, I had only managed a rough outline. I was painting the creek we had walked along that afternoon, with the distant mountains, the maple leaves, and even the blades of grass by the water's edge. But I still felt like something was missing. I couldn't convey the spirit I wanted to express. After thinking for a long time, I picked up my brush and began to paint quickly. Soon, next to a round white stone, a girl with long hair in a white dress appeared. She was standing barefoot in the creek, playfully splashing at the fish, the water soaking the hem of her dress. The addition of the girl instantly brought the serene painting to life. Chloe, standing beside me, blinked her big eyes innocently. "This is so beautiful. Ethan, are you painting me?" I looked at my painting, my gaze softening, and spoke without thinking. "Because you're here, Chloe, the mountains and the scenery all seem to pale in comparison. I used all my skill, but the person I painted is still not even a fraction as beautiful as the Chloe in my heart. You are the most beautiful scenery in the world." When I came to my senses, I realized I had said something incredibly cheesy. I turned my head, embarrassed, and met Chloe's tender, liquid eyes. A blush had spread across her cheeks, and she was staring at me, completely still. Chloe felt her heart pounding. When had her little Ethan become so romantic? His words were like poetry, so beautiful to hear. For the next 2 days, Chloe and I explored every corner of the area, committing the lush, beautiful scenery to memory and taking countless photos. I wanted to go back and capture all of this beauty, which I could never get enough of, with my paintbrush, making it eternal. The drive back seemed much shorter. Chloe and I went to the Institute's office and showed our final draft to Professor Summers. She nodded, very pleased with our work. Only then did we submit it to the competition organizers. I felt a weight lift from my shoulders and began to focus on creating the anniversary album. I had assumed it would be a painting, but after asking for details, I learned they wanted it done in colored pencil. To be honest, I had specialized in painting my whole life. I had done some sketching but never practiced it seriously, and I had never worked with colored pencils before. But I've always had a competitive spirit. Chloe recommended an online course, and I started learning as I worked. Gradually, I found myself enjoying it, and my drawing became more and more fluid. Before I knew it, the semester was over. Time flew by, and soon it was late December. It had gotten very cold outside, and everyone was wearing their winter coats. Chloe sent me an iMessage telling me to come downstairs, saying she had something important to tell me. I threw on a heavy jacket, stuffed my phone in my pocket, and ran outside. A light snow had fallen that morning, and the white flakes clung to the tree branches. Chloe was standing under a tree, waving at me, her face beaming with an excitement she couldn't contain, as if something wonderful had happened. I jogged over to her. "Chloe, are the competition results out?" She nodded, her eyes sparkling. "Ethan, guess what place we got?" I ventured a guess. "Don't tell me we got first place?" Chloe stepped forward and gave me a light hug. "Of course, it's first place. Our Ethan is the best, the absolute best in the world." That evening, Chloe and I talked happily in the freshly fallen snow on campus, completely lost in the moment, drawing many envious glances. In the past, I would have wanted to share any news with Sarah, but that day, after winning first place in the competition, she didn't even cross my mind. To celebrate our victory, Chloe treated my entire dorm room and a few of her close friends to dinner. By the end of the night, my roommates and I were all a bit drunk, stumbling along with our arms around each other, singing off-key songs into the quiet night. Chloe hadn't had much to drink and was still sober. She walked me to my dorm and waited until I was inside before leaving. On the way up the stairs, Finn drunkenly slurred, "Ethan, man, the way that Chloe girl looks at you is not normal. What's your deal? Make a move or don't, but stop stringing her along. I'm telling you, she's the goddess of every guy at Dartmouth. Don't mess this up." I had explained it 100 times. She was my Chloe, the older sister who had always doted on me. In her mind, I was the little brother and she was the big sister. That dynamic was set in stone. I was tired of explaining it. Even if they weren't tired of hearing it, I was tired of saying it, so I just pretended not to hear. Finn, frustrated, elbowed me. "Just keep being clueless. With your emotional intelligence, I seriously feel bad for your goddess." We were still laughing and talking when we reached the 4th floor and ran into our other roommate. The two of them immediately ganged up on me, both insisting that Chloe liked me and that I should appreciate it and make a move. I had no energy to argue, so I just pretended to be asleep. I thought I would be heading home alone for winter break again, but when I stepped out of my dorm that morning, I saw Chloe waiting under a tree with her suitcase. She said she hadn't been home in almost 2 years, and her family wanted her back for the holidays. My face lit up with joy. "Chloe, why didn't you tell me sooner?" She smiled faintly. "I wanted it to be a surprise." And it certainly was a surprise. The journey home with Chloe was much more pleasant, and it felt like we were back before I knew it. I knocked on the door, and my mom opened it. She was surprised to see me, and even more so to see Chloe with me. After a moment, she broke into a happy grin. "Chloe, you're back. It's been so long. You're even more beautiful than before. I hope Ethan hasn't been causing you too much trouble at school." My mom took my luggage while warmly inviting Chloe inside. "Not at all. Ethan is very well behaved, no trouble at all." Chloe chatted with my mom for a bit, then turned and knocked on her own door. 2 seconds later, my ears were ringing from Mrs. Anderson's shriek of joy. My mom smiled, trying to suppress a laugh. "Look how happy your aunt is." Chloe's return was a surprise to Mr. and Mrs. Anderson, and even Sarah was thrilled. Her break had started earlier than ours, but she was arriving a day later. The day Sarah got back, her parents arranged a special dinner, saying that for 2 years, their family gatherings had been missing Chloe, so this time, both families had to have a proper reunion dinner together. They told Sarah to come straight to the restaurant from the airport, and we would all go home together afterward. The so-called reunion dinner had everyone present, but it didn't go as well as planned. To everyone's surprise, Leo had come with Sarah. The 8 of us sat around the table, and the atmosphere was incredibly awkward. When my parents saw Sarah and Leo, their smiles faded. They exchanged polite greetings and then didn't say much else to them. Mr. and Mrs. Anderson looked very uncomfortable, especially Mrs. Anderson. She kept stealing glances at my mom and me, her face a mixture of embarrassment and annoyance that she couldn't hide. I have to admit, even now, after 2 years, it was one thing not to see her, but seeing her in person, looking into those eyes I was once so infatuated with, still stirred up some indescribable emotions in me. Chloe, sitting next to me, keenly sensed the shift in the mood and noticed the troubled look on my face. She quietly took my cold hand in hers, and the touch jolted me back to the present. I heard Chloe's pleasant, sophisticated voice. "If you're not happy, don't force it. Want to go for a walk?" I turned to her with a small smile and shook my head. "No, I'm fine." The food arrived quickly, and Mr. Anderson encouraged everyone to start eating. Everyone complied, and the 4 parents ate in silence, each with a different expression on their face. Sarah broke the silence, putting some food on Leo's plate. "Leo, the fish head here is delicious, you should try it." But while she was talking about the fish, she had actually given him a piece of broccoli. It seemed Sarah wasn't as calm as she appeared. Leo didn't eat the food in his bowl. Instead, he stared at Chloe. "Sarah, is this your sister Chloe?" Sarah's hand paused mid-air. She glanced at Chloe, then said, "Yes, this is my sister. She's a grad student at Dartmouth, the same school Ethan goes to." "Ethan, when Leo was at Dartmouth for the exchange, you didn't even introduce him to Chloe." My heart sank, and the food I had just put in my mouth got stuck in my throat. There she went again, blaming me without knowing any of the facts. I was about to retort when Chloe placed a hand on mine under the table. With a cold expression, she said, "Leo, is it? Why would Ethan bring you to see me? Do you think I meet with just any random person?" "I'm sorry, but I don't have the time for that." Leo's intention was probably to get closer to the Anderson family, but he hadn't expected Chloe to shut him down so completely. He was left looking utterly awkward. Seeing Leo trying to suppress his embarrassment, Sarah felt a pang of sympathy and slammed her chopsticks on the table. "Chloe, how can you say that? Leo is my boyfriend, not some random person." Chloe snorted. "If he's your boyfriend, then he's my junior. Why didn't he even bother to say hello to me when he was at Dartmouth? Does he not have any respect for your older sister?" That was a heavy accusation. Sarah, knowing she couldn't take on her whole family alone, quickly backed down. She took Leo's hand protectively. "Leo, let me formally introduce you. This is my sister, Chloe." "Chloe, I'm sorry, it was my fault, not Leo's." Chloe glanced at Leo out of the corner of her eye, then tossed her napkin down. "I heard there's a player in Boston named Leo Vance. I wonder if it's the same person." At that, the color drained from Leo's face. My parents pretended not to hear, quietly discussing whether broccoli tasted better with garlic. Mr. and Mrs. Anderson sat there with grim faces, saying nothing. Chloe and Sarah were locked in a silent standoff, while I just kept my head down and ate. This dinner was exhausting. As my mind wandered, Leo suddenly looked at me, his gaze as sharp as a knife and filled with hatred. It didn't take a genius to figure out that he thought I was the one who told Chloe about his cheating. I had never said a word, but his suspicion was understandable. I was the only one who knew what he had been up to at Dartmouth. The atmosphere at the table was incredibly tense and uncomfortable. I wished I hadn't come. After excusing myself to the parents, I stepped out. I don't know what happened after I left, but in the end, the reunion dinner ended on a sour note. Back home, my mom and dad were whispering in a corner, avoiding me as if they were afraid I'd overhear. I had no interest in dissecting what had happened at dinner. It wasn't going to affect me anyway. Chloe later told me that Leo had been forced to leave dinner early that night and went back to his family's home in the city. He and Sarah had a fight afterward, but they made up after Sarah promised to visit him. However, her parents, who disliked Leo, grounded her and wouldn't let her leave the house. Because of all this drama, it looked like our families wouldn't be celebrating the holidays together this year. My mom said she hadn't planned on it anyway, but just hadn't found a good excuse to decline yet. For Christmas Eve dinner, for the first time in 20 years, our two families celebrated separately. I don't know what it was like at the Andersons' house, but the three of us had a very happy time. My mom brought all the food to the table, and my dad opened a bottle of red wine, pouring a glass for my mom and me. I had just raised my glass to make a toast when there was a knock at the door. I put down my glass and went to get it, assuming it was Mrs. Anderson. I opened the door without looking and said, "Auntie, all the food is ready. Come in and have some." "Calling everyone Annie now, are you? Where are your eyes?" A sweet, teasing voice replied. Chloe walked right in. "Mr. and Mrs. Carter, can I join you for Christmas Eve dinner?" My parents were delighted to see her. "Welcome, welcome. Of course you can. Come, sit down. Ethan, get another plate." At the dinner table, Chloe went on and on to my parents about how well I was doing at school. She told them how my professor used my paintings as examples in class and how I had earned nearly $20,000 on a single commission through my own talent. Throughout the meal, Chloe had my parents beaming with joy. They couldn't stop putting food on her plate, as if she were their own daughter. I, on the other hand, was just a sidekick, constantly being asked to get this or that. After dinner, the three of them continued to chat happily. I carried a mountain of dishes to the kitchen and, after washing every single one like a workhorse, I finally let out a long sigh of relief. I had just stepped out of the kitchen when Chloe suddenly leaned in close. My vision was filled with her impossibly beautiful face, less than 2 inches from my own. I could clearly see her long eyelashes fluttering and her thin, rosy lips pressed together lightly. I had never been this close to a girl before, not even Sarah. My heart started to pound, and in my panic, I tried to lean back, but I moved too quickly and hit the back of my head on the doorframe with a painful ouch. Chloe suppressed a smile, took a tissue from her pocket, and gently wiped the sweat from my forehead. "You're sweating so much, you must be exhausted. Ethan, you're such a hard worker." I scratched the back of my head. "Just for today." Chloe's smile grew wider, like a red rose blooming in the night. "Ethan, I've almost forgotten what the night market near our house looks like. Will you take me for a walk?" I nodded. Of course. Maybe because she had been away for so long, Chloe, who never used to like taking pictures, was constantly snapping photos with her phone. Occasionally, she would switch to the front camera for a selfie, always making me get in the shot and pose with her. As we passed by a large shopping mall, there was a performance happening on a stage out front. We were a bit late and stood at the back of the crowd, unable to see clearly what was going on. Chloe looked around for a less crowded spot, occasionally standing on her tiptoes to get a better view. It was an unexpectedly cute sight. I glanced from the stage to her and asked, "Chloe, do you want to watch the show?" Chloe looked at me, nodded, and gave a soft hum. The moment she did, I took her hand and started weaving through the crowd, pulling her along until we were right near the front of the stage. I happened to glance back and found myself lost in Chloe's tender, liquid eyes. She was staring at me, unblinking, the affection in her gaze as vast as an ocean, completely enveloping me. She didn't say a word, just kept looking at me, but it felt as if she had said all the most beautiful things in the world, and I understood every one of them. My heart suddenly began to race, and my cheeks grew warm. I walked Chloe home and didn't get back to my own house until after 10 p.m. After washing up, I lay in bed, my mind a jumble of thoughts. I didn't know if I was imagining it, but the way Chloe looked at me seemed to be growing warmer. Sometimes I would mistake that look for affection. But she was my Chloe, my older sister. How could that be possible? I must have been mistaken. That year, when Sarah called me shameless, I finally understood that she only saw me as a brother. It was because I had misunderstood her feelings that I had been so cruelly insulted. I was older now, and I knew I could never endure being called shameless again. So I didn't dare to guess, and I didn't dare to believe. If being her little brother was the way to avoid ever getting hurt again, then I was willing to be just that. Just then, my phone buzzed with a notification. It was a message from Sarah. "Did you have fun?" I was a bit confused by her question, but I replied with one word, "Yes." She replied instantly, "Are you and my sister together now?" I was annoyed and shot back, "Who I'm with is none of your business, is it?" A moment later, she sent a long message. "You two aren't right for each other. Someone like my sister is proud and arrogant. How could she really like you?" You can't ruin your own life just to get back at me. Please, break up with her, okay? I was speechless. What was Sarah trying to do? Even though Chloe and I weren't dating, and she only saw me as a little brother, I still replied, "That's my business, not yours." After sending the message, I instinctively opened Facebook to check my notifications. The first post was from Chloe. "This holiday season isn't lonely anymore." Below it were a bunch of photos from our walk, including several very noticeable ones of the two of us together. In the comments, Sarah had replied with 3 question marks. I looked at the post a few times but didn't see anything wrong with it. Sarah must have just misunderstood. I stopped overthinking it, turned off my phone, and closed my eyes. I spent most of that winter break with Chloe. During the day, she would come over to my house, and we would sometimes discuss art. In the evenings, she would drag me out to go shopping with her. One time, as I was walking Chloe home, Sarah's voice suddenly called out from a second-floor window, "Ethan!" I glanced up at her. She was wearing pink pajamas and looked a bit worn out. In the past, I would have felt a pang of sympathy, but now I felt nothing. I gave her a small wave and turned to leave. I could hear the sound of her tapping on the window behind me. By the time the Lantern Festival came around, Leo had already gone back to Colombia, so Sarah would probably be traveling back to school alone. My plan with Chloe was to have dinner, go to the amusement park, and then see the lantern display in the town square. Before we left, Mrs. Anderson came over and said that Sarah had been cooped up at home all break and was feeling lonely, and asked if she could join us. Although Chloe wasn't thrilled about it, Sarah was still her sister, and she couldn't just leave her behind, so we had to bring our tag-along with us. We arrived at the amusement park around 6 p.m. Since it was a holiday, the entrance was crowded, mostly with young students. Chloe, who had developed a love for photography over the break, took out her camera and asked Sarah to take a picture of the two of us. Sarah pouted but reluctantly took Chloe's small camera and started adjusting the focus. In that brief moment, I caught a glimpse of a familiar figure out of the corner of my eye and was startled. It was Leo, and the person with him was Isabella Reed. I would recognize her anywhere. Across the street was a hotel, and the two of them were walking towards it. Isabella had her arm around Leo's waist, looking very intimate. So, Leo hadn't gone back to Colombia after all. His excuses were just lies to fool Sarah. He was actually meeting up with Isabella. I had to admit, those two were bold. If you're going to do something shady behind someone's back, couldn't you at least go somewhere more discreet? Did they have to do it in plain sight? I wondered if Isabella had come to town to see Leo a while ago. Maybe they had even spent the holidays together. I turned to look at Chloe and saw that she was also staring at the couple. Just then, Sarah said to us, "Chloe, the lighting is bad here. It's backlit. Let's move to a different spot." The moment I heard different spot, I jumped up like a startled rabbit and started circling her, trying to block her from turning around. But my efforts were in vain. Sarah's body went rigid. She had seen them. A cold sweat broke out on my skin, and I quickly looked at Chloe. It was over. What were we going to do? Chloe gently patted my shoulder and whispered, "Don't panic. Let's just see what happens." Sarah stood there like a soulless puppet, staring at the couple for a moment, a storm of emotions swirling in her eyes. Finally, it all erupted in a piercing scream, and she charged towards them. I instinctively moved to pull her back, but a cool hand gently stopped me. I turned and met Chloe's calm, steady gaze. She gave me a slight shake of her head, her eyes seeming to say, "Let her go. This is something she has to face on her own." My heart sank, and my feet felt rooted to the spot. She was right. What right did I have to stop her? The Ethan Carter who would have rushed to shield her from any storm had learned, after being pushed away time and time again, to stay put. In the center of the chaos, Sarah grabbed Leo's arm, her eyes bloodshot. She pointed a trembling finger at Isabella. "Who is she? You told me you went back to school. You lied to me." A flash of panic crossed Leo's face before he composed himself, shaking off her hand and smoothing his collar. "Sarah, calm down. This is just my distant cousin. She's visiting and I'm showing her around. Don't make a scene." "Cousin?" Sarah let out a shrill, heartbreaking laugh that was worse than any sob. "A cousin who hangs on your arm and rests her head on your shoulder? Leo, do you take me for a fool?" Isabella, the girl I'd seen on the Dartmouth campus, stood by with her arms crossed, a smug look on her face. "You're Sarah, right?" she said contemptuously. "I'd stop deluding yourself if I were you. Leo and I have known each other since we were kids. If it weren't for some trouble my family had back then, you would have never been in the picture. I've always been the one he loves." Her words were like a sledgehammer, shattering Leo's lies and demolishing Sarah's last line of defense. She stumbled backward, staring in disbelief at the man she had been willing to defy the world for. Leo's face turned ashen. He probably hadn't expected Isabella to expose him so bluntly. Humiliated and furious, he dropped all pretense and snarled at Sarah. "Fine, I lied to you. So what? If you hadn't been so clingy, and if your family wasn't well connected, I wouldn't have bothered with you. Do you think you're some kind of goddess?" Every word was a poisoned dagger stabbing into Sarah's heart. She trembled, her face white as a sheet, her lips moving but unable to form a sound. Her once bright, proud eyes were now just empty and broken. The pointing and whispering of the crowd washed over them like a tide. I saw Sarah swaying, about to collapse. For a second, 19 years of habit almost took over, but then my eyes met Chloe's and I stopped myself. There was no surprise on Chloe's face. She just watched calmly, then took her phone out of her bag and walked over with measured steps. She stood beside Sarah, gently steadying her shoulder, then turned her phone screen towards Leo. Her voice was cool and strong. "Leo, I have something here that might help your cousin remember things more clearly." The phone displayed a series of videos and crystal-clear photos. Them kissing by the rose wall at Dartmouth, them entering and leaving the motel off campus. There was even an audio recording of Leo whispering sweet nothings to Isabella, mocking how naive and easy to fool Sarah was. The evidence was irrefutable. The color drained from Leo's face. He pointed at Chloe, then turned to me, his eyes filled with venom. "It was you. You set me up. Ethan Carter, it must have been you. You're still obsessed. You can't stand to see Sarah happy." Before I could say a word, Chloe sneered and stepped in front of me. "I don't know about his obsessions, but I know that you are an absolute scumbag. My sister was blind to trust you, and that's our family's business to deal with. But if you dare to slander Ethan, you'll have to deal with me." She paused, her gaze like ice. "I'm giving you 10 minutes to take your cousin and disappear. Otherwise, all of this will be on the student forums of both your universities in the next 60 seconds. Her powerful presence left both Leo and Isabella speechless. They exchanged a look and ultimately chose to make a hasty, undignified retreat. The drama was over, and the crowd dispersed. Sarah, as if all her strength had been drained, leaned weakly against Chloe, crying silently. I walked over, took off my jacket, and draped it over her trembling shoulders. She looked up, her swollen eyes gazing at me blankly, and murmured, "Ethan, am I really that stupid?" My heart clenched, but the pain was more of a lament for a bygone era than a pang of love. I answered calmly, "Not stupid, just time to grow up." The car was deathly silent on the way home. Sarah was curled up in the back seat like a wounded animal. I drove, Chloe sat beside me, and none of us spoke. After dropping Sarah off and watching her walk dejectedly into her house, I let out a long sigh of relief. I started the car, but instead of heading home, I drove to a nearby road that ran along the river. The night wind was cool, the river silent. Chloe and I stood side by side at the railing, not speaking for a long time. "About what happened today," I began, but I didn't know how to continue. "I arranged it," Chloe said softly. Her quiet words were like a stone dropped into the calm lake of my mind, sending ripples everywhere. I turned to her in shock. "What?" She met my gaze without flinching. "I've known for a long time that Leo was a bad person, and I had already investigated his history with Isabella. I was waiting for the right moment, a chance for Sarah to see the truth for herself and finally let go. I found out they would be there today, so I deliberately brought you all there." My mind went blank. The sheer amount of information was too much for me to process at once. Chloe continued, her voice filled with a gentle, almost sighing tenderness I had never heard before. "Ethan, I watched you give her everything. I watched her hurt you, and I watched you run away to New Hampshire to lick your wounds all alone. It broke my heart more than anyone's." She paused, as if steeling herself. "Do you remember that 50th anniversary album I had you paint? The $15,000 commission?" I nodded. It was the first real money I had earned in college, the beginning of me regaining my confidence. The client was actually a friend of mine, and that $15,000, it was all of my savings and scholarship money from my graduate studies. My eyes widened, and my heart began to pound. Why? Because I wanted my Ethan to stand on his own 2 feet, through his own talent and hard work, not live in anyone's shadow. She turned to face me, her beautiful eyes shining in the moonlight, filled with a complex and profound emotion. "I couldn't stand to see you devalue yourself because of one failed relationship. Your art is so good, your talent is so immense, you shouldn't be hidden away. I wanted you to find your own light again." So that was it. What I had thought was a lucky break was actually her quiet protection. The independence I was so proud of was supported by her gentle hand. Over the past 2 years, all the perfectly timed words of concern, the video calls that chased away the loneliness, the fattening up plan, the encouragement and praise. All these moments flashed through my mind, converging into the starlight I saw in her eyes right now. I had always thought her kindness towards me was just an older sister's affection for her younger brother. But now I understood. That kindness had long since crossed the line of familial love. Chloe, my throat was dry. I love you, Ethan Carter, she interrupted, her words clear and firm. I have for a very long time. Back when you were still trailing after Sarah, when she was your entire world, I was watching you. I watched you laugh. I watched you hurt. And I waited for you to turn around and maybe, just once, look at me. The world seemed to stand still. The river breeze blew past, lifting her long hair and stirring my heart. I remembered our trip to the Adirondacks, how I had painted her in the creek and blurted out, "You are the most beautiful scenery in the world." I had dismissed the flutter in my heart then as a fleeting illusion. Now I knew it wasn't an illusion. It was the truest answer from my heart, one I had been too slow to recognize. I had given 19 years to Sarah and gotten nothing but scars and insults in return. But Chloe, when I was at my lowest and most broken, had used every means she had, gently and firmly, to pull me out of the mud, carefully wipe away the dirt, and tell me that I was already good enough just as I was. An unprecedented warmth spread through my entire body, washing away years of accumulated hurt and resentment. I reached out and took her cool fingertips, holding them tightly in my hand. "I'm sorry," I said, looking into her eyes with all the sincerity I could muster. "I'm sorry I made you wait so long." Her eyes instantly reddened, but she smiled and shook her head. I gently pulled her into my arms, feeling her tremble slightly against my chest. My heart felt clear and bright. I leaned down and whispered in her ear, "Chloe, thank you. It turns out the scenery I was waiting for all along was you." 2 years later, the wedding vows had just been exchanged, and the room erupted in applause. I held Chloe's hand, looking at her in her white wedding dress, her smile as radiant as a flower, and felt that my life was complete. Sarah was there as the maid of honor. She wore a lavender dress, her hair styled in an elegant updo, looking mature and serene. She had changed a lot in the past 2 years. After the betrayal, she had formally apologized to me and my parents, then decided to study abroad. When she returned, instead of joining her family's company, she got a job at a top design firm on her own merit, starting from the bottom. Now, she was a capable and respected project manager. During the bouquet toss, she didn't try to catch it. She just stood quietly at the edge of the crowd, smiling as she watched. Halfway through the reception, I saw her step out onto the balcony alone. I followed her. "Brother-in-law," she said with a smile when she saw me. The title sounded natural now. "Getting some fresh air?" I asked. She nodded, her gaze fixed on the horizon. "I'm just feeling a little sentimental. Seeing you and my sister together, it feels like this is how it was always supposed to be. Ethan, thank you for loving me so much back then. And I'm sorry I lost someone as good as you. That's all in the past," I said with a genuine smile. "You're doing great now, too." "Yeah," she said, taking a deep breath, her face as clear and bright as the sky after a storm. "I am doing great. I finally understand that security isn't something someone else gives you. It's something you have to earn for yourself." She turned to me and raised her champagne glass. "To you and my sister, congratulations, and may you be happy forever." "Thank you," I said, clinking my glass against hers. She finished her drink, gave me a wave, and walked towards another exit of the ballroom. Her silhouette, illuminated by the bright lights, looked independent and strong. She was no longer the princess who needed protecting, but a queen who could build her own kingdom. I watched her disappear around the corner, and with her, the last lingering ties to my past dissolved into thin air. I turned and went back into the reception hall. Chloe was watching me with a smile. I walked quickly to her side and took her hand, lacing my fingers through hers. "Where did you go?" she asked. "To say one final goodbye to the past," I said, gazing into her eyes, which held my entire world. "Mrs. Chloe Carter, from this moment on, please guide me for the rest of my life." Her eyes crinkled into a beautiful smile. She leaned her head on my shoulder and whispered back, "Of course, Mr. Ethan Carter, for the rest of our lives, let's paint together."